Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming this evening. My name is Brian Page. I am the former chapter president. Walter Davis over here is our current chapter president. We are the Los Angeles Orange County chapter of Media Communications Association International, better known as MCAI. I want to thank you again for being here tonight. We're going to have a wonderful presentation from Alicia Reed here on JVC's newest items, so you want to stick around for that for sure, but just have a couple announcements that I was just given, so pardon me as I read some of this. MCAI is a nonprofit association of media professionals that are dedicated to helping each other in business, and we hold monthly meetings to keep in front of an ever-changing industry. And we're always eager for new memberships, new members. It is an annual dues of $80 for business professionals, and for students, John, there is a lesser amount, but I don't remember what it is.
$50 a year.
Well, so keep that in mind. We're a great organization of media professionals. We actually, most of the time, enjoy each other's company. That's just an extra benefit. We've got tonight's event being streamed live. Walter is our current, as I said, our current chapter president, and he's streaming this live, and it'll be he's also looking, I should say, for a serious intern to work with him on a regular basis. So if any of you students are possibly interested in an internship, please see Walter after the meeting this evening. We've got our annual holiday party coming up. MCAI is actually part of about a dozen other Orange County media groups this year, including the Ad Club, and it's a great way to get together to meet new people for networking, et cetera, and there's also a charity involved this year. You can get the MCAI member discount for this meeting if you don't even want to, even if you don't join, I should say. You just have to register and pay before next Thursday, and the details are on our website. Our local chapter website is www.mcai-oc.org. So take a look at that if you're interested. We've also have our annual media festival that's going on. It's open now for new entries. And one of the things that makes MCAI's Media Festival kind of a special event and very popular is there's no limit to the awards. We give out a lot of different awards. It's not a competitive style festival. It is based on merit and that type of thing. And it's individually peer judged and in individual quality. And so it's possible to get an award for very good work, and you're not in competition with a lot of other people. You can check that out on our website as well. And you can go to either our website, again, mcai-oc.org, or the international website, which is www.mca-i.org. If you have any confusion remembering any of that, you can ask us. We'll tell you. There's also a place to join if you'd like to join MCAI on both of those websites. All right. Also, after Alicia gives her presentation, we have a little presentation from a young lady from our San Diego chapter, Carissa Ricci, and she's going to give us some announcements, so you want to stick around for that. So without any further ado, I'm going to turn it over to Alicia for her presentation. Let's give her a round of applause. Thank you.
Well, thank you, everyone, for coming tonight for the JVC presentation on live streaming. Before I begin, I'd like to introduce a special guest. This is John O'Donovan from VMI, who's a local reseller. And so if you do have interest in any JVC products or other products or accessories, I wanted to let you know who can help you locally. Sometimes it's easy to go on the internet, but if you have a local company, you can actually meet with them. They can advise you. They even have demo gear and rental gear a lot of times. They have a lot of JVC products if you wanted to follow up after tonight and test things out. And I'll let John say a few words as well.
We're a systems integrator. What that means is we'll come in to replace in production or a robotic camera, technically, count the chamber, anything like that. And I use the handle? Are you getting me? Okay. And we are able to offer probably better pricing than the B&H's of the world, because most of the manufacturers, JVC, among them, let us register deals, so we can offer you a little bit more discount than you'd normally get. And if some of you guys know about it, yeah. So, like you said, we have open houses. We do a lot of stuff in conjunction with JVC. We'll have educational events where you can come down and meet several manufacturers. We have a big show once a year, sort of a mini NAB, if you will. And if you want to, give me your name to put on a mailing list, I got cards over here. Or again, remind me if you're a student, I give you a student discount, or a lot of different ways we can give you discounts. And that's about it for me. Any questions on that?
Thanks, John.
We're just your JVC rep in the area.
Okay, great. Before I start talking about the live streaming, which is our main topic, John asked me to also talk briefly about the assortment of cameras. If you maybe don't think the cameras that do live streaming are what you want, we have some others as well as some monitors. So I'll just kind of go in order. Over here, this is one of our most affordable cameras, and although it's very compact, it's actually made for broadcasters. This is our GYHM150 camera, and it's what CNN uses out in the field. They have over 250 of these that their first responders use, and normally they use it handheld. Here I've shown it in a mini studio, but it just goes to show that if you do want something affordable, it's under $3,000. It's only $24.95. It records up to 35 megabits, up to 1080p. It uses the SD card media, and it has both manual and automatic mode. And that's one of the reasons why CNN uses it. If they're running and gunning in a hurry, you can actually put it in automatic mode, and it'll do a lot of the work for you, give you a great picture. If you have more time, you can totally customize everything. And also it has the full audio handle that has XLR audio inputs, and it even comes with a microphone. That's all included. And here I'm showing it with a 7-inch monitor. If you do have it in a mini studio mode, these monitors start at under $600. And it's a nice way for you to get a better image of HD. HD is so detailed, it's sometimes hard to see it in a tiny viewfinder. Or if you have multiple people that want to view it at one time, you can see the pictures big enough, you can get a real good idea. And it also has things like waveform and vector scope. So that can help you in the field double check your light levels and your color. So it has a lot of benefits, and you can even get a VeriZoom style remote, and that'll give you the full studio style setup. On the other end, we have our GYHM 700 series. This camera is a shoulder mount style, and you can actually adjust the shoulder mount so it will fit different body types. It even has this unique earphone, and that allows you to both get audio, and also I call it a tripod for your body. It's a third point of contact between your shoulder, your eyepiece, and your earpiece. It helps stabilize your shot, and a lot of people really like that. Like our smaller camera, it has something called a focus assist. If you are looking in the tiny viewfinder, you can press the focus assist button. It'll give you a black and white image, and whatever's in focus will have a colored edge. So it's a real handy tool when you're shooting HD that's so detailed. This one, like the other one, uses the affordable SDHC card media. And both of these cameras were designed in combination with Apple. So not only can you record in XD Cam EX, which is the Sony format, you can also record native in .mov for Final Cut. And .mov has become so popular that even Adobe Premiere is using it. They have it in their drop-down menu. And what that means to you is it will automatically be dragged and dropped into your timeline without having to do any manipulation first. If you've used some of the other brands of cameras, you know, sometimes you have to do some conversion before you can actually edit the footage. And with our system, depending on the NLE system that you have. It makes it really easy to do a quick edit. You don't have to wait while something's processing prior to your edit system. And then what I'm going to talk about a little later are this 600 and 650 style, which is kind of in the middle. The 700 series is priced between $6,000 to $10,000, depending on the model. This one is in the $4,500 to $6,000 range, so it's literally in the middle size-wise and price-wise. And whereas the 700 series, you can see, has a detachable lens system, so you can customize the lenses. This one has a fixed lens, but it's so robust, you might not mind, and I'll talk about that in my talk. I'm also showing one of the most affordable and lightweight 4K cameras. A lot of people are talking about 4K these days for doing movie making, and as you know, a lot of the cameras are much larger and more complicated to set up. And people said we'd like one that's easy and fast to set up. And so people can use this for traveling, for documentaries. They can use it in combination with the bigger cameras to shoot background plates or do test shots. And it literally records onto 4 SDHC cards. And it's one of the few that can do a live output. So if people are wanting to do a 4K image and put it on a 4K projector or screen, this camera can do it, and it's in the $5,000 price range. So it's quite remarkable. And lastly, we also have a nice variety of monitors. I know a lot of people go to Best Buy or the computer store to get monitors, but keep in mind if you're doing video production, it's good to have at least one video production monitor. This will give you things like the area and safety markers. It'll give you audio levels, and some of them will even give you things like, I'll make this bigger. This is your waveform, so you can see if your light levels are too high or too low at a glance. And also with the press of a button, you have a vector scope. So if you have a chip chart, color bars, you can actually set your camera, make sure it's optimized. And that's something that you don't get with the regular computer monitors or with the television type monitors. And in addition, in the back, you have all the correct inputs. Things like HDSDI can be used with ours, whereas with more home style monitors, that isn't an option. And I have a really nice comparison guide if you are interested in the monitors. The prices have come down. Like I said, the on-camera ones are under $600, and the tabletop ones start at under $2,000 now. We also have a $300 rebate on all of our table-type monitors. If you do have a need coming up, let someone like John know, and they can do a quote for you. So now, without further ado, you may have noticed in the background I have something up on the big screen. This is actually demonstrating some of the features of our live streaming camera. Now on the right, I'm actually showing our 650 camera, which I'm going to raise up right here. You can see it's actually streaming live. There's about a 2-second delay. And I'm actually sending this camera's image, and I can disconnect the power cable, so you can see it's literally cordless. No strings attached, just like Magic Show. And what this is doing is it's transmitting from the camera body to VLC Player, which is a free application that I have on my desktop. And also how you could use this is, we originally designed this camera for news people. So for example, a news group, instead of sending it to VLC Player, they can send it to a little decoder box at their station. So if you're a stringer for news, you can say, hey, this breaking news is happening, or this event is happening in Hollywood, I want to send it to you. You can do that with this camera. Just send it to a decoder. They'd have a HDSDI output to their switcher probably, and they could go live with your shot if you're using this kind of camera. And I'll also talk about how it can be applicable for other applications for like church or school, either doing live streaming or doing what we call sending to an FTP server, or just using what we have, which is a remote control feature. On the left, it shows how we have this virtual shader. You know, in the old days, you had a multi-camera system, and you literally had a joystick or some kind of shader. This camera has that built into the camera itself. And so you can see the live images on the right. I have my virtual shader set up, and I'm going to use my mouse and watch. I'm going to change the white paint to be kind of greenish, and you'll see, look at the image turn green, and I didn't touch the camera. So that's a cool example of how it's going wirelessly from my laptop to the camera. And I'm using the laptop because it's convenient for me, but you could also be doing that from a tablet or from a smartphone. And so, for example, you could be at an event, and there's a lot of shooters there, and it's crowded. You could set up your camera on a tripod, and instead of having to hunch over it and do stuff to it or wait for the celebrities or whoever to arrive, you can actually sit back with your tablet or your smartphone or your laptop. You can adjust the camera, and there's even, I'll show you a screen where you can start and stop the camera, and also zoom in and out. So you can literally do that without touching the camera, which is remarkable. So I'll go to my PowerPoint and start at the beginning. All right, so you'll notice at the bottom there's a website name, gyhm650.com. If you have a pen, you might want to jot that down. In addition to having the JVC website, which is very informative, this is a micro site for this camera alone. And it's packed with information. It has lots of videos and testimonials and how to do this, how to do that, and information about what works with what. And so I really recommend looking at that website. It's really fun because there's some really informative videos and information. As I mentioned, the 650 was originally developed for news. And in that realm, we're literally the first one to come out with a camera that can do this. Normally, a TV station would use a satellite truck, or they have new backpacks that have lots of antenna. So this is another method that's much more affordable and simple to use. And it literally gives you, with this affordable $6,000 camera, the ability to do what you used to need a truck or a backpack to do. And so it's really amazing. It's not going to be the end-all, be-all and cause people to never use trucks again, because there's some scenarios where a truck might be more suitable. But I'll talk about how this can be a real handy tool in the toolbox. It's also usable for reality production. Some of those folks want to do something fast or live, or like corporate or church, they might want to have some location be a part of a presentation and say, hey, here's our other location. They're going to say a few words, and you could have it live streamed into your presentation. The camera itself, I mentioned there's two models. There's the 600 and the 650. The 600 doesn't have all the Wi-Fi, but look at what you get with both models. As I mentioned, it's a fixed lens, but can you see right to the left of JVC logo? On down is all lens. It's about 2/3 or 3/4 lens, and we literally built the camera around it. So that's how we knew you really need a good lens. That's what people said. Our 150 camera is very popular, but it's got a 10x lens. That's one CNN uses. So they said we love it if we can get even more zoom, you know, even a higher quality glass. And so that's what we designed this for. We figure it's a fixed lens you're not embarrassed by, that it's a lens that it can do almost anything, so you don't feel bad that you can't switch it out. It also has some of the newest CMOS sensors. It's got 3 1/3 inch CMOS chips, which are so new they're really good in low light. It gives you f11 at 2000 lux, which is good for like events where you may not have the control of the lighting, or even in a conference room where it might be kind of dim, or maybe you're literally outdoors in the evening. And instead of having one encoder like most cameras, ours has 2. And the reason why that's important is it allows you to do 2 things at once, and I'll give you some examples. And also it uses the low-cost media. JVC came out with our cameras after some of our competitors, So to their credit, they actually designed special cards like the S/S or the P2 card media, but because it was their design, it's relatively more expensive. We waited long enough where the SDHC card media can handle video. So you can actually go to the store like Best Buy or Target, pick up for $20 or less an hour load card, and that's really convenient, and it also saves you a lot of money. So here's an example of the lens. The top picture shows how wide you can be. You can get a real panoramic type shot. And then you can zoom in where you see a little tiny speck in the parking lot. You can see the whole car. It's a 35 millimeter equivalent of 29 to 667. So it's quite powerful. And you can see on the lower right, if you had a DSLR type camera and had to get this type of lens, it would be that long, that heavy, and probably cost more than this whole camera. So it's really remarkable what JVC did to engineer this. And it also, you'll notice, has not only a focus and a zoom, but also an iris. So people like it. It's a real lens. And here's another example of the zoominess. And here's talking more about the CMOS sensors. There's a lot of talk about the single Bayer sensors, but arguably here you're getting 3 CMOS. That's 1920 by 1080 green, 1920 by 1080 blue, 1920 by 1080 red. So you get a really robust picture. A lot of people really like this type of system. And this is also what affords you the real low light sensitivity. In the early days of HD, it wasn't even as good as standard def, and people were a little frustrated by the ability to shoot in low light. This solves that problem. It's got some of the best low light sensitivity of a camera of this price range, and it's similar to those of much bigger chipsets and much more expense. And here's talking about the dual encoders. JVC actually is known for engineering, and we engineered these. They're called Falcon Bridge chips. It's what's used in our 4K cameras, which gives you the ability to actually shoot live, which most 4K cameras can't do. And in this instance, it allows you to do 2 things at once. It has 2 cards, which a lot of cameras have, but on ours, you can record one in HD and one in SD, or one in HD and one in web. So it gives you a versatility. A lot of people are doing more than one thing with their video now. It saves you a step of having to make some kind of copy. And here's all the different recording formats and the bit rates. As I mentioned, you can go up to 35 megabits on many of our cameras. This is one of those that's included in that. And you can see it'll shoot not only in XD CamEX and .mov, which as it is more than many cameras. A lot of them just give you one flavor. And with ours, you can also shoot in AVC HD. And with the 650, you can do H.264, which is becoming popular because it's the DSLR standard, and also a new format called MXF, which I'll talk about a little bit more. And here it shows with the 600 versus the 650, if you're trying to decide which one you would like. One of the benefits of the 650 is it gives you those couple of other recording formats, including the web or proxy recording. And I mentioned there's a new format called MXF. This is really educational. There didn't used to be this particular format, but CNN wanted to be able to sort their material. Now that there's no more tape, they wanted to be able to say, you know, Obama, and all this stuff would come up with all their footage, or to have a date or a photographer, and all the stuff would come up. And so basically, you can see in the old days, formats like XD CamEX had multiple files that are in that little red circle. So each clip had multiple pieces, and you had to drag and drop it very carefully so you wouldn't lose material. On the right, you'll see MXF is a single line item. If you didn't know, MOV is that way too. MOV has audio and video, but MXF adds metadata. So you can essentially put your logging notes in there. And another reason why the ability to record in a lower resolution, like for web or SD, you can actually view the web type files as a proxy file on like a tablet. And as you may have figured out, the bigger robust HD files, you usually can't open them on a tablet. You literally need a device that has like Final Cut Pro or some kind of an editing device. So by recording in the proxies, you can show your associates your clips. You can't edit with them, but you can play them back, you can log them, things like that. And as I mentioned, the cards are affordable. You can use either SDHC or SDXC, which is the extended capacity with this type of camera. And you can see you can get 7 or more hours on one card. So that's a benefit too. Some of the other cameras, they can record just small amounts of time. And this one is great for events or times when you don't want to switch out your media a lot. And it's robust media. Instead of like holes and pins that can get clogged or dirty, this one, I've heard stories of people getting them muddy or even wet, and you just wipe them off and they work great. And because of the low price, you can either reuse them or not. It's up to you. You can record, edit, and archive, or record, edit, and re-record and just keep using them. And here's talking about the audio. It has balanced XLRs with phantom power, and it's not technically got the ability to do, let's see. Oh, this is showing how normally with the larger cameras you might have gen lock. This one doesn't have gen lock, but you can use an RCA cable, and it'll let you make one camera the dominant, put it in free run time code, and the other ones you just connect to, and the time code will match. So if you're doing a multi-camera shoot, that can be great. And the matching time code will last about a day. So you do it every morning of your shoot, and it'll work great. And here it's showing the difference between the 650 and the 600 is it has a USB port. And this is where the magic happens. We decided to make a port because technology changes so fast. With this port, you can connect an Ethernet cable, a cellular modem, or a Wi-Fi adapter. And as the technology changes, you don't have to get rid of the camera. You can keep using it. You just change out the dongle that you put in there. And so that kind of future-proofs you and makes it a good investment. And what you can do with this USB connector is the camera itself can be used, as I said, as a remote control. It actually has an IP address of its own, so it acts as a web server. And it can also send recorded clips. So if you just want a speedy workflow and send from the camera, you can do that. And lastly, you have the live streaming via this portal. And so the live streaming, like I said, you decide where you want it to go. In my example, I was going to the free VLC player software, but you can also go, as I mentioned, to a decoder, and it would have its own IP address. Or if you're doing FTP work, you'd send it to an FTP server's IP address. So it's kind of like a computer now. The computer is related to the camera, and so like when you're setting this up, you just need to know the IP address of where you're sending it, and then the camera will have its own IP address. So the person who's receiving it, they'll be able to identify that it's from you. And oh, on the bottom right, that's an example of what a decoder looks like. So I mentioned TV stations would use this. The decoder we're showing here costs about $1,500. So if you do work with a church or a company and they want to get a decoder so you can, do live streaming and have it go to that decoder at your location, it's not very expensive to do. That's kind of a good example right there. And you can also use a Wi-Fi mobile hotspot with the camera. And here it's showing that the two encoders can do things at the same time. So normally you'd think, oh, if I'm going to be live streaming, of course I can't record. Yes, you can. So while you're live streaming, you can be making an HD version to have as a backup or to use later. And you can also, you can see on the bottom, it's showing you can do speedtest.net is a website, www.speedtest.net, and you can see in your area where you are how good your signal is. And on the bottom it's showing it's typically between 5 megabits per second and 14 megabits per second upload speed. That'll help determine how quickly you can do these things. And I was mentioning about in different areas you may have good, better, or worse reception. That's where this will give you some clue of how much you'll be able to do with the camera. So one of the things I mentioned is the camera has an IP fixed address. So I'm going to go back, to my example really quick. And here, oops, it's streaming, so it won't show me all the modes. But you'll see at the very top, upper left, where my cursor is. That's the IP address of my camera that I brought tonight. So how it works is you literally go to a web browser, either on your laptop or your tablet or your phone. You type in the IP address of your particular camera, and you'll get the ability to control it, to view it, to put in the metadata information. I'm still streaming, so I'll show you that later. But it's really neat because, I'll fix this too. But from the camera itself, you have that ability. And so some people will use maybe three of these cameras, and on your laptop you can have 3 of these remote control screens. So it's kind of like a virtual but traditional switcher. You can have this laptop in the engineering space. Let's say you're at a church. Maybe the camera operators are volunteers. That happens a lot. They may not have a whole video background. So they can focus on getting a good shot, following the action, and someone in the engineering space can have these little remotes set up, and they can actually control if the lighting changes the look of it, just like you would with a traditional remote. So it's so versatile. It gives you a lot for the money. And here's an example of live streaming. We've got the camera. Maybe it's covering a meeting in New York, and the people in LA want to see what's happening. Or maybe you're at a university and you have a special speaker, but you want to have it shown at another campus. This would allow you to do that. And all you'd need is one of these decoders at the secondary location. And if your signal is good, you can stream from the primary location to the other location directly. And there'd only be, again, a short lag because of the live stream. And depending on your quality of your either cellular or Wi-Fi in your area, you could go up to full HD 1080. Or if you have a more limited Wi-Fi or cellular signal, you could do 720p. Or if it's real limited, you can do like a web stream. And for example, when I came here tonight, this area has enough interference that I wasn't able to do the 1080, but the image I was showing you was at 720. So it's a good example how it looks really nice. And you can pick depending on your environment. And so here's just a little more technical information. Once you're in the camera, you can tell it all the different locations. You have up to 4 locations that you can preset. So as a camera operator, you don't have to type this in all the time. It'll just be a one-time setup to get it all organized of where your destinations might be. And then you can select. And so FTP transfer, let's say, for example, we were here tonight and we wanted to provide footage to another campus, but the cellular Wi-Fi was restricted. It wasn't very strong, and it was hard to get a clean live signal. You can still record to the camera and then send it to someone's FTP server within seconds or minutes, depending on, again, your signal strength and what you recorded in. And the FTP servers, places like corporations or schools, they already have them. You can buy an FTP server for a couple $100, so it's even less money than a decoder. And so you could have that at your editor's facility. If you said, hey, I'm in Tijuana and I want to send you this footage so you can edit it right away, they can get it before you drive all the way back. Or if you have clients, you want to look at it right away, or associates, you can send it quickly to them if they have the FTP server. And it also is lossless, whereas the example of the live streaming, you're at the mercy of the cellular or Wi-Fi. It is possible the signal could break up or something could interrupt it. With the FTP protocol, the files will be delivered losslessly, which means it compensates while it's transferring and double checks itself. So what you shoot in your camera, the FTP server resulting footage will be identical. It'll be really good quality. So that's a wonderful tool to use if you have a fast turnaround on your projects. And so in the old days I mentioned, you'd have to stop what you're doing, take the footage out of the camera, go to your computer and maybe send some files, or maybe you were working with a bigger company and they have a truck. Those are all options. But what we determined is that some people don't have time to stop and do those steps, or maybe they just don't want to. This allows you to be shooting, and you can, if you have a good signal, send a live stream, and you can also be shooting more new material. Or you can be shooting, find some favorite clips, select the clips, and send them while you're shooting more. And here's an example of the time. If you're shooting high definition, a 3-minute video clip could take between 7 to 26 minutes to send from your camera once it's recorded. So again, in my example, if you're in Tijuana, you couldn't drive back that fast. So it's definitely an easier way to do it. Or if you're doing web, it'll take 15 seconds to 1 minute. So again, depending on the resolution, it's very relatively quick. And here's an example of, on the left, we set up the server IP address, the port, and that only has to be set up one time, and that will be one of your 4 choices. So you just say, send it to the editor, or send it to my office, or send it to my client. You can have all those pre-programmed in the camera, and instantly you can just select things and send them. And on the right, you can see once you select your clip, you just hit FTP upload, and it'll start to do its thing, and then you can go back to shooting again, or maybe drive to the next location while the camera's on. While you're driving, it can be FTPing. So even if you have a 3-minute clip in HD that's going to take 7 to 26 minutes, it can be doing that, and you don't have to be touching the camera. And here's an example of how it can do things simultaneously. On the left-hand side, it'll show you a little FTP upload screen where it'll tell you how many minutes are remaining and if you're halfway done or not. And here's an example of the clip trimming. Maybe you shot a half-hour interview and you don't want to send the whole half-hour interview. You don't need every minute of it. You can just select your favorite clips and it'll make a secondary clip without ruining the first one. And you can see on the upper right, you'll actually see an image of the clip, and you just make an in or out point, kind of like on an editing timeline. And again, it doesn't destroy the original. It's all pristine the same. But your secondary clip will be smaller, and you can select that, for example, to send to the FTP server. And here's the speedtest.net if you want to write it down. That's such a cool tool. You can even just do it on your phone and see if you'll have like AT&T or Verizon. It'll tell you the specs of where your location is. And then the last thing is web access. I mentioned that you can use a tablet or a phone or the laptop to do certain things. I showed you how you just type in the IP address, and on the upper right, that's what the home page of the camera looks like. So it's actually the camera's home page. That's that black camera with JVC on it. The middle button gives you a live shot, which we were looking at earlier. And then on the bottom right, you can see this gives you some of the clip information. If you do want to reference it or update the metadata, you can do that. And again, you just type in the web server info, the IP address of the camera, and you can do all these different things. The remote control, it literally duplicates the menu setting on the camera. And this could be beneficial in several ways. As I gave you the first example, you could be in a crowded area and be controlling it from the back of the room. The other example is like in a church. You can have the cameras and you can have a separate person adjusting things. Or maybe you work with a crew and you couldn't go, and they call you and say, I can't figure out, I'm new, the camera doesn't look right. You can actually, from your office, log in, look at it, and help them using this technology. Here's an example of, on the left side is the live view. You have a red button which you just press to start and stop the clip, just like you were touching the camera. On the bottom is the zoom. You can even have A, B, and C preset zooms. And on the right, I was showing you how you can adjust things, and it'll actually show up in the camera image right away. It's a live interaction. And here are those different choices as if you were looking at them on a smartphone. You have the home page, metadata planning, looking at the clips, and the live view, which you can start and stop. So it could be so handy. And metadata, in the old days, you just had kind of numerals which didn't mean much. And now each clip can have this much info. You don't have to put this much info, but we did it just for fun so you can see. In the different formats, you can utilize title, description, creator, GPS. And you can do that either in the camera, which is kind of tedious because you'll be right arrowing, left arrowing. But you can see you can also do it from your smartphone, laptop, or computer top. And so then it's quite easy. And remember how I told you you can push video from the camera to your office? You can actually push the metadata from your smartphone or your laptop to the camera. So it goes both ways using this wireless and cellular technology. So this is the easiest way where you essentially do your pre-logging. If you know the location and the information that you're going to be shooting, you just preload it. All the stuff you shoot that day would have all that detailed info. If after the fact you go, oops, I went to a totally different location and forgot to change it, don't worry, you can do that after the fact too. And this is just showing how detailed you can be. And it's literally embedded in the clip, so it'll always be there. And here's showing how different ways you can view it. So in the old days, you just saw your video. Now you've got all this data, which can be very useful. So to recap, the camera itself has the great 23 by lens, the wonderful low light sensor, the dual encoder, which allows you to do two things at once, and the affordable media. And if you get the 650, you even have all the Wi-Fi and cellular creative stuff you can do. So that's it. Any questions? Yes?
The website that you talked about earlier, was that GYHN650.com?
Right there it is. Yay! Yeah, and I really recommend you look at that because I kind of talked about a lot of stuff, but that goes even more in depth. And they actually have videos that show, like if you want to do a live stream, they show someone doing it. You know, they show them touching the buttons and showing the menus, and so it's really helpful if you're trying to get a feel for what it can do and if it might be helpful for your type of video. As you can see, it's originally made for news, but it has so many unique features. I have people who say recording in high def and standard def alone makes it worth it, or high def and web version, because it makes it so quick. You can instantly give the material to different people. Also, people say that remote control is so nice. You know, on any shoot, it would be nice to be able to sit in a comfy chair and remote control and start and stop instead of hovering over the camera. And if you do, you know, have different locations at all, that can be helpful to either have someone else be able to view it or to be able to FTP or to do live streaming if you do have special applications where that might be helpful. Yes?
Do you have to have the decoder, or can you stream to a laptop and then use that output?
Oh, I'm glad you asked that because I forgot to mention something. The direct way is to stream to a decoder, and then that one location will be able to have an HD SDI output to go either to a monitor or to a switcher. As I mentioned, you can use things like VLC Player just for one location to view it. But in a couple months, we're partnering with a cloud service called ZIXI, Z-I-X-I. And they're a cloud server where this camera will be able to send the live stream to that location, and you'll be able to tell clients, multiple clients, to go see the live stream on that cloud server. And so that'll actually open up even more opportunities to use it, because you can then, I've had people say, what a cool service for a wedding videographer. They can tell all the people who couldn't come, I'm going to be live streaming your cousin's or granddaughter's wedding, and here's where you can view it live while it's actually happening. So that's an example of a really cool way the cloud service could be helpful. Or if you're doing an event and you want multiple people to be able to view it live, again, right from the camera, you don't need to hook up a bunch of different equipment. Just you'll put in the IP address of the cloud server, it'll go there, and then all your clients or friends can hop on and look at it. So thanks for that. Kind of like that, yeah, because right now we don't have the ability to do that today, but in a month or two that's going to become available, and then woo, you have a real open, I don't have all the details. I think it'll be something that'll have a low cost per use, or if you use it a lot you can get like an annual service thing. As you can imagine, using like the cellular dongle, that's something you'd invest in through like Verizon. Verizon usually has the best coverage in the U.S. right now.
Scenario is I want to shoot in this room and I've got a client 2 doors down. I don't want to snake a cable. They got a laptop and I have them on their laptop when I shoot.
Yeah, there's a couple ways to do that. You can either use the live view if you don't care about the resolution. That's where you can even go peer-to-peer, just have them type in at the search engine the IP address of the camera. If you want a better image quality, that's where you could use like the VLC player, or if it's fancy, you can have a decoder and have beautiful, on a big screen. So you have different options. And the key is the camera that I'm using today has a little tiny, see the little blue light? That's a teeny tiny Wi-Fi dongle. So you can see I'm really close to my computer right here, so it doesn't matter that it's a very small dongle. But if you were going to go a few doors down, you'd probably need a larger, more powerful Wi-Fi dongle, or you'd use your cellular. It'll depend on how far the distance is, on what kind of attachment you'd be using. Yeah, this would be more for separate shots. There is, as you saw earlier, there's a couple second delay. So for like a live event, it would be hard to mix in that footage because there is a delay, unless it was like an audience shot or something that isn't relating to the talking. I'll put it up again so you can see.
For cameras or Wi-Fi, would they stay sync? Would they change?
That's a good question. I think they'd kind of match because they'd all be, if they're in the same area and the same proximity to where it's going, and using the same equipment. You can see if you raise your hand and wave it around a little bit, you'll see the delay. So you can see that.
All four are delayed.
Yeah, that's true. That's a good point. And in that instance, you're right, maybe it would work because they're all going to have the same delay. I was thinking you were mixing it with some also attached footage. Yeah, so as I was suggesting, if they're all wireless in the same area, you'd probably find the same delay. If they're intercut with the non-Wi-Fi cameras, then you would notice a difference.
Also, for multi-camera shoot, do you know of any product that would be Wi-Fi televised? That you don't have to run cable.
Well, the camera, you're saying, because these will just be on all the time showing that it's streaming, and you're wanting to...
But my cameraman don't know. I'm talking to them, but you say some sort of Wi-Fi tally that can be attached to any external camera.
There may be a possibility that could be set up. I'm going to ask my engineers and get back to you. Yeah, that's a good question. Yes? Did I see another one?
You were just trying to get that second delay.
Oh, okay. Testing out the delay. And let's see. I'll turn off the Wi-Fi for a moment, and I'll just end. Yes? Yes. Because it's related to the encoder in the camera, you always have to have it coming from that camera with that IP address. Mm-mm.
So there's no video input that you can up to, and you can like, when you set up an encoder, never mind the camera, someone will set the video into the camera, use your encoder as
Yeah, my understanding, although you can feed the data into it, as far as sending out a signal, it's assigned to the IP address of the camera, so it would only be the images generated by the camera itself. And so here, I turned off the streaming. So now this is the live view. Just for fun, I'll see if I can do it from the beginning so you can see what the web page looks like. So here's the web page. See, I just typed the little IP address in the top. So this is actually the home page of the camera. And here you can see the metadata planning. I have my laptop here. I could be typing away and then push that to the camera. So it makes it much more convenient than trying to go right arrow, left arrow on the camera. Here's where if I had data in the camera, it would show me the little thumbnails. And then here is the live stream. So this is really cool. This is where, as I mentioned, one person can view what the camera is seeing. And again, it's a lower resolution, so you wouldn't be broadcasting this. This is not the live streaming. This is actually what you see from the little web homepage of the camera. And why this is helpful is maybe you sent a photographer out and couldn't go. You could actually type the IP address of their camera in your computer and check on them, see how they're doing. You know, could say, oh, I'm going to log in and I'm going to see your shot. And so like the reality show people love this because they can check in and see all the different camera people that are out in the field and see what kind of shots they're getting. It could also be great for client approval. Or as I mentioned, this is the one where you can zoom in and out. See, I didn't touch the camera. And I did that from my laptop, but I could be using a cell phone or a tablet as well. And that's where I can also start recording by using this red button, or I can have preset zooms. And then, yeah, that's this one there that has a little camera. This is actually showing the duplicate menu from the camera. AE, iris, gain, shutter, white balance, white paint, zoom, focus, spot meter, low lux, display on TV or not. You have all those things just like on the camera. And so that's where I was saying if your associate is having trouble, you can assist them. If you're doing kind of a virtual multi-camera shoot and want to put, this is one window, but you can put 3 little browser windows with different IP addresses for 3 different cameras, and you have a little side-by-side switching station. So some people like it just for that. Yeah, absolutely. We haven't been able to figure that one out yet, but I know it would be really handy. It could do pretty much everything except that. You can put it on the tripod, and you can do all this stuff, but if you do want to pan it or tilt it, yeah, you could use a third-party pan tilt, or that's where your camera operator comes in. Great. Those are some great questions. Yes. Yeah, that's true. You won't be out of a job. Yes.
When you talked about metadata, I know you put it in the file. Is it embedded in the frame as well? If the parts of the file is being used in the project, will it see that frame, the data on the frame?
It won't show up visually and impede your image at all. It's just sortable or viewable in those scenarios where you would want it. Well, technically, I know it is embedded, so it will remain there. So I don't know if that's what you mean by watermark.
What I mean, okay, you have 5 clips, you use it in a sequence, you make 1 clip.
Oh.
And if I park the player on a particular frame, will it show the metadata of that particular frame?
After it's been used already. I'll have to check. It might, but I'm not sure. I know the original will definitely have it. And I'll make a note to ask about if it's passed on.
It would be a great watermarking if you copyright it.
I'm going to write these down. Okay, yes, did you have a question out there? Oh yeah, instead of a gen lock, this camera does not have gen lock. That's what our bigger shoulder mount 790 has. But these 650 and 600 cameras, you can put them in a free run timecode mode, and the one camera will be the master, and you can take an RCA cable and connect the secondary cameras briefly to the master, and they'll all match using that free run mode with the cable. Yeah, well, how it works is once the cameras all have the same time code, you can do multi-camera shoots and edit it later, and they'll match. So it kind of is similar to Genlock. It's a poor man's Genlock. Yes?
The date and timestamp in the camera, you know, like most of the date and timestamp, does that download that, like from the internet? Download it from the same site, that will automatically do the same.
Or are you talking about the time code for like editing?
Well, no, the date and timestamp in the clock and the camera, how you manually set it.
Mm-hmm.
Something they can download into the camera.
As I mentioned, using that free run procedure, it will match the cameras, and it lasts about a day, but then they may go out of sync. And you brought up an interesting topic. This is one of the cameras that also can put a time and date stamp visually on your material. So if you do any legal work, this is a camera that can do that as well.
I'm thinking if you try to use the atomic clock, you probably lose some frame level.
That's what I'm getting. If it downloads it from, you know, what's available instantly, boom, all your cameras are exactly the same. You don't need a time code, they're all the same.
Right. I don't think it cuts it up that fine on the atomic clock. Just guess, no problem.
That sounds good. Yes? You might know the answer to that.
Well, there is. You could set that up externally, but the camera itself would have to have an end.
Or you could do time of day on all the cameras, probably. Mm-hmm.
And then you'd be talking about mismatched cameras and stuff too. A lot of other issues.
Wi-Fi capabilities for that camera, or Wi-Fi is only available for that camera, or any of the other cameras that I talked about incorporating.
That's a good question. Currently, the 650 is the only camera that can do this. And again, I mentioned JVC were the first to do it, so it's pretty remarkable. Because it's a cool new technology that we invented, I would imagine in the future it will migrate to other models. But currently, the 650 is the only model that has it. I would imagine anything's possible. Yes. Oh, good question. The 600 without the Wi-Fi but with the nice lens and low light is $46.95. Currently, through the end of the year 2013, we have a $500 rebate, which brings it to just a little over $4,000. So it's a pretty good deal. The 650 with the Wi-Fi has $62.95 as the list price, and that one's so popular we've never had a promo on it. But if you guys are at all interested, come up and see me after, because I have permission to give $500 rebates on the 650 tonight to people who are at this event. It's good for just 30 days if you think you need something quickly. But again, it's such a popular camera, we haven't discounted that for everyone yet. But think what you get, you don't need a truck.
Second, give you a plug. We just used 3 of them today, this morning, to videotape an event with a Blackmagic switcher, which is a couple of $1,000 and works great.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you so much.
Got the cameras in you, yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you can do a very affordable multi-camera system with this, which is really nice. Great.
All right. Thank you very much. Alicia, thank you very much. We appreciate all your time.